The massive space station Nexus Prime floated in the void between star systems like a gleaming metal flower. Its crystal domes reflected the light of distant suns while ships from 100 different worlds docked at its many ports. Today was special. The greatest diplomatic summit in galactic history was taking place inside those shining halls. Princess Zara of the Valkyrie Empire walked through the main assembly chamber with her head held high. Her blue crystalline skin sparkled under the artificial lights, and the silver crown upon her forehead marked her royal blood. The young princess was only 19 years old, but she carried herself like someone much older. Her purple robes flowed behind her as she moved, and other delegates stepped aside to let her pass. Zara looked around the chamber with sharp golden eyes. Representatives from dozens of species filled the huge room. There were the tall, green Therans with their multiple arms. The floating gas beings from the nebula sector drifted near the ceiling. Even the mysterious shadow people from the dark worlds had sent someone to this gathering. But Zara was not impressed by any of them. The Valkyrie Empire was the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. Their psychic powers were legendary, and their technology was beyond the understanding of most other species. Zara felt proud to represent such a mighty people. "Princess Zara," said Ambassador Krell, a short, round alien with orange fur. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. We are honored by your presence." Zara nodded but did not smile. "The honor is mine, Ambassador. My mother, Queen Lystra, sends her greetings to all gathered here." "Excellent," Krell said, wiping sweat from his furry brow. "Today we begin the cultural exchange program. Each species will demonstrate something unique about their people. Perhaps the princess would like to show us Valkyrie's psychic abilities." "Of course," Zara replied. She was always happy to display her people's superior gifts. The delegates gathered in a large circle. One by one, different species stepped forward to share their culture. The Therans showed their ability to work with their multiple hands at once, building complex structures in seconds. The gas beings created beautiful light patterns in the air. The shadow people made themselves completely invisible before reappearing. Then it was time for a new demonstration. Ambassador Krell announced, "Now we will hear from the human representative." Zara turned to look, curious despite herself. Humans were still relatively new to galactic society. Their planet Earth had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. The Valkyrie considered them to be a primitive species, barely worth notice. A man stepped forward from the crowd. He was tall and strongly built, with short brown hair and calm green eyes. He wore simple clothes, not the fancy robes or uniforms of other delegates. This surprised Zara. Most species try to impress others at such gatherings. "I am Ben," the human said in a clear voice. "I come from Earth to share something of my people's way." Zara examined him with interest. He looked ordinary enough. Humans had no psychic powers, no advanced technology of their own, and no special physical abilities. What could this simple being possibly show that would interest anyone? "Humans are known for many things," Ben continued. "But today I will demonstrate some of our martial arts. These are the fighting techniques we have developed over thousands of years." "Fighting techniques?" Zara almost laughed. The Valkyrie had energy weapons that could destroy entire mountains. They had shields that could stop any attack. What use were primitive fighting skills when you had such advanced tools? Ben moved to the center of the circle. He bowed respectfully to the watching crowd, then began to move. His movements were slow at first, like a careful dance. He stepped forward and back, turned and spun, his arms moving in smooth patterns through the air. "This is called kata," Ben explained as he moved. "It teaches balance, control, and focus of mind." Some delegates watched with polite interest. Others looked bored. Zara found herself paying attention despite her feelings of superiority. There was something about the way Ben moved that caught her eye. His motions seemed simple, but they flowed together perfectly. Every step was placed exactly where it needed to be. Ben finished his demonstration and bowed again. The crowd clapped politely. Ambassador Krell smiled and thanked him. But Zara was not satisfied with politeness. She had been raised to speak her mind, especially when she saw weakness. "That was interesting," she said, stepping forward. Her voice carried clearly across the chamber. "But I do not understand the purpose of such primitive techniques." A hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to the young princess. Ben looked at her calmly, showing no anger at her words. "The Valkyrie have evolved beyond such crude methods," Zara continued. "We use our minds to fight, not our bodies. We have technology to protect us, not these simple movements." She raised her hand, and a soft blue glow surrounded her fingers. This was her psychic power made visible. With a thought, she lifted a heavy metal chair from across the room and floated it through the air before setting it down gently. "This is true strength," Zara said proudly. "The power of the mind over matter. What use are your fighting dances when an enemy can crush you with their thoughts?" Several delegates looked uncomfortable. Insulting another species during a peace summit was considered very rude. But Zara was a princess, and few dared to correct royalty. Ben studied her for a long moment. His green eyes seemed to look right through her, as if he could see something she could not. This made Zara feel strange, though she could not say why. "You make a fair point, princess," Ben said finally. "Our methods are indeed different from yours." "Different and inferior," Zara said sharply. She was surprised that the human was not defending himself more strongly. Most beings became angry when challenged so directly. "Perhaps," Ben said with a small smile. "But would you be willing to test that belief?" Zara blinked. "What do you mean?" "A friendly sparring match," Ben explained. "You may use your psychic abilities and any technology you wish. I will use only human martial arts. We can see which approach is more effective." A murmur ran through the crowd. This was unexpected. No one challenged a Valkyrie princess to combat. Their psychic powers were too strong, their technology too advanced. Zara felt excited. This would be a perfect chance to prove Valkyrie's superiority in front of the entire galactic community. The human was either very brave or very foolish. Either way, she would enjoy teaching him a lesson. "I accept your challenge," she said formally. "But do not blame me when you are defeated quickly." Ambassador Krell stepped forward, looking worried. "Perhaps we should consider the safety measures needed for such a demonstration." "No special measures are required," Ben said calmly. "I trust the princess to control her abilities. And I promise not to cause any lasting harm." Zara almost laughed at this. The human thought he might harm her. She was protected by energy shields that could stop bullets. Her psychic powers could sense attacks before they happened. This would be over in seconds. The delegates cleared a large space in the center of the chamber. Zara and Ben faced each other across the polished floor. The princess activated her personal shield generator, causing a faint shimmer to surround her body. She also opened her mind, extending her psychic senses to read Ben's intentions. But something strange happened. When Zara tried to probe Ben's thoughts, she found them strangely familiar. There was something about the patterns of his mind that reminded her of something, though she could not remember what. The feeling was like trying to recall a half-forgotten dream. Ben bowed respectfully before taking a fighting stance. His feet were positioned carefully, his hands raised but relaxed. He looked ready for anything. "Begin when you are ready, princess," he said. Zara decided to end this quickly. She reached out with her psychic power, intending to simply lift Ben off his feet and hold him in the air until he surrendered. It was a simple technique that worked on every other species she had tried it on. But Ben moved the instant she began her attack. He rolled to the side with smooth, flowing motion, coming up in a different position entirely. Zara's psychic grip found nothing but empty air. Confused, Zara tried again. She sent a wave of telekinetic force toward Ben, enough to knock him backward into the wall. But somehow Ben seemed to know exactly where the invisible attack was coming from. He stepped aside at just the right moment, letting the force pass harmlessly by. How was he doing this? Humans were not supposed to have any psychic abilities. They should not be able to sense her attacks coming. Zara became more serious. She began attacking from multiple directions at once, sending waves of force from different angles. But Ben flowed around each attack like water, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. His movements were beautiful in their simplicity, each step perfectly timed. The watching delegates began to murmur with interest. This was not going as anyone had expected. Growing frustrated, Zara decided to use her technology. She activated an energy blaster built into her royal bracelet. A beam of bright purple energy shot toward Ben. Ben saw the attack coming and dropped low, rolling beneath the energy beam. As he came up from the roll, he was suddenly much closer to Zara than before. The princess tried to back away, but Ben moved faster than she had thought possible. Before Zara could react, Ben was beside her. His hand moved in a quick, gentle motion, touching a spot on her wrist. Instantly, Zara felt her arm go numb. The energy blaster fell from her suddenly weak fingers. How did he know that pressure point? Only Valkyrie healers knew about that particular nerve cluster. Ben continued his attack, but it was unlike anything Zara had ever seen. He did not try to hurt her or overwhelm her with brute force. Instead, he seemed to predict every move she would make before she made it. When she tried to grab him with her psychic power, he was already moving away. When she attempted to strike him with her other hand, he caught her wrist gently but firmly. Within moments, Zara found herself on the ground with Ben's hand on her shoulder, holding her in place. She had lost. Completely and totally lost to a human using nothing but primitive fighting techniques. The chamber was silent. No one could believe what they had just seen. A human had defeated a Valkyrie princess in single combat. Ben released Zara and stepped back, offering her his hand to help her up. His expression showed no pride or mockery, only quiet respect. Zara stared at him in shock. How had this happened? She was stronger, faster, and had superior technology. Yet this simple human had defeated her as easily as if she were a child. But there was something else that troubled her more than the defeat. Throughout the entire fight, Ben had moved in ways that seemed familiar to her. His techniques, his timing, even the gentle way he had pinned her reminded her of something from long ago. Something important that she could not quite remember. "Thank you for the match, Princess," Ben said quietly. "You fought with great skill and courage." Zara felt her face burning with embarrassment and confusion. She had been defeated in front of the entire galactic community. Worse, she had been wrong about human abilities. They clearly had strengths she had not understood. But strangest of all was the way Ben looked at her. There was something in his green eyes that made her feel safe, even in her moment of defeat. It was the look someone might give to a person they cared about very much. Without another word, Zara turned and hurried from the chamber, her purple robes trailing behind her. She needed time to think, to understand what had just happened. Behind her, she heard Ambassador Krell thanking Ben for his demonstration and apologizing for the princess's behavior. But Zara barely heard any of it. Her mind was full of questions she could not answer. Who was this human warrior? How had he known her people's pressure points and fighting styles? And why did being near him make her feel like she was remembering something very important from long, long ago? Princess Zara paced back and forth in her private quarters aboard the royal ship Crystal Dawn. 3 days had passed since her humiliating defeat at Nexus Prime, but she could not stop thinking about the human warrior Ben. The memory of his calm green eyes haunted her thoughts, along with the strange familiarity she had felt during their fight. Her personal guard, Captain Vex, stood by the door watching her with concern. "Princess, you have barely eaten anything since we left the station. Your mother will be worried when we return to the homeworld." Zara waved him away impatiently. I am fine, Vex. Just thinking. But she was not fine. The defeat had shaken her confidence badly. Worse than that, she felt like there was something important she was missing, some piece of a puzzle that would explain everything. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Zara activated the communication screen, expecting to see her mother Queen Lystra. Instead, the face of Admiral Orcs appeared, one of her mother's most trusted advisors. Princess Zara, the Admiral said formally. I have urgent news regarding the human you encountered at the summit. Zara's attention sharpened immediately. What about him? Our intelligence network has discovered that the human Ben is departing Nexus Prime on a dangerous mission. Human colonists in the Outer Rim have sent a distress signal. Their settlement is under attack by unknown raiders using advanced energy weapons. What does this have to do with me? Zara asked, though she found herself very interested despite her words. The human has volunteered to lead the rescue mission, Admiral Orcs continued. His ship left Nexus Prime 6 hours ago, heading for the Keth system. Princess, this could be the perfect opportunity. Opportunity for what? To prove that human incompetence will lead to disaster, the Admiral explained. If this Ben fails to save the colonists, it will demonstrate to the galaxy that humans are not ready for important responsibilities. The defeat you suffered will be forgotten when everyone sees their true limitations. Zara considered this. The idea appealed to her wounded pride. If Ben failed spectacularly at this rescue mission, it would prove that his victory over her had been mere luck. What do you propose? She asked. Follow him, Admiral Orcs said. Observe his mission from a safe distance. When he fails, as he surely will, you can document everything. The galactic community will see that humans cannot handle real crises. Zara made her decision quickly. Prepare my personal scout ship. I will leave within the hour. Captain Vex looked alarmed. Princess, is that wise? The Outer Rim is dangerous territory. There are pirates, energy storms, and worse things in that region of space. I can handle myself, Zara said firmly. Besides, this is just observation. I will stay far from any actual danger. 2 hours later, Zara's sleek scout ship Night Wind slipped away from the Royal Fleet without anyone noticing. The small vessel was equipped with advanced stealth technology and could outrun almost any other ship in the galaxy. Zara felt confident that she could follow Ben without being detected. The journey to the Keth system took nearly 2 days. During the flight, Zara studied the star charts and learned more about the region. The Outer Rim was indeed dangerous territory. Wild energy storms swept through the area regularly, and several aggressive alien species lived in the nearby sectors. The human colony under attack was on a planet called Haven's Rest. It was a small world with rich mineral deposits that the humans were trying to mine. According to the distress signals, unknown raiders had appeared suddenly and begun attacking the settlement with powerful energy weapons. When Zara arrived at the edge of the Keth system, she immediately spotted Ben's ship. It was a mid-sized vessel called the Earth Song, nothing fancy but well-maintained. The human was already approaching Haven's Rest, apparently planning to go straight into the danger zone. Zara activated her ship's stealth systems and followed at a careful distance. She wanted to see exactly how Ben would handle this crisis. Her plan was simple: when he failed to save the colonists, she would record everything and then call for Valkyrie rescue ships to clean up the mess he had made. But as they approached the planet, something unexpected happened. 3 sleek warships suddenly appeared from behind Haven's Rest's largest moon. They moved with familiar grace, and Zara's blood went cold when she recognized their design. The ships were Valkyrie vessels, but not from the Royal Fleet. These belonged to the Crimson Brotherhood, a rogue faction of her own people who had been exiled years ago for their violent methods. The Brotherhood pirates were the most dangerous criminals in Valkyrie space. Zara watched in horror as the 3 pirate ships opened fire on Ben's vessel. The Earth Song was caught completely by surprise. Bright red energy beams slammed into the human ship's shields, overloading them instantly. Ben tried to maneuver away, but the pirates had surrounded him expertly. More energy blasts struck the Earth Song. Zara could see explosions blooming along its hull as systems failed. The ship began to spin out of control, trailing smoke and debris. Without thinking, Zara started to move her ship forward to help. But before she could reach Ben, one of the pirate vessels detected her approach and fired. A crimson energy beam struck the Night Wind's engine section. Alarms began screaming throughout Zara's cockpit as her ship's power systems failed. Both ships, Ben's and Zara's, were now falling toward Haven's Rest. The planet's gravity pulled them down through the thick atmosphere while the pirates watched from orbit. Apparently, the Brotherhood was content to let their enemies crash rather than waste more ammunition. Zara fought desperately with her ship's controls, trying to guide her vessel toward a safe landing. Through her viewscreen, she could see the Earth Song falling nearby, also struggling to find a safe place to crash. The surface of Haven's Rest rushed up to meet them. Zara braced herself for impact as her ship struck the ground hard, bouncing twice before sliding to a stop in a cloud of dust and smoke. For several minutes, Zara lay still in her pilot's seat, checking for injuries. She had some bruises and cuts, but nothing serious. Her ship, however, was badly damaged. The engines were completely destroyed, and most of the communication systems were offline. Zara climbed out of her wrecked vessel and looked around. She had landed in a rocky valley between two mountain ranges. Strange blue plants grew everywhere, and the air smelled of sulfur. In the distance, she could see the wreckage of another ship. The Earth Song had crashed about half a mile away. Smoke was rising from its broken hull, but Zara could see movement near the wreckage. Someone had survived. Zara started walking toward the other crash site, picking her way carefully across the rough terrain. As she got closer, she could see Ben moving around his ship, apparently trying to salvage equipment from the wreck. When Ben noticed her approach, he stopped what he was doing and turned to face her. His expression showed surprise but no anger, even though she had clearly been following him. "Princess Zara," Ben said calmly. "I did not expect to see you here." "I was observing your mission," Zara admitted, feeling foolish. "I wanted to see if humans could handle such a crisis." Ben nodded thoughtfully. "And now we are both stranded on an unfriendly planet. The Brotherhood ships are still in orbit, so calling for rescue is not possible." Zara looked up at the cloudy sky. She had been so focused on the crash that she had not thought about their larger situation. The Crimson Brotherhood would probably scan the planet's surface eventually, looking for survivors to capture or eliminate. "How long before they come looking for us?" she asked. "Hard to say," Ben replied. "But this planet has regular energy storms that interfere with sensors. If we are lucky, the storms will hide us long enough to find another solution." As if summoned by his words, thunder rumbled in the distance. Dark clouds were gathering on the horizon, and Zara could see flashes of strange green lightning. "We need shelter," Ben said, shouldering a pack he had assembled from salvaged supplies. "The storms on this world are dangerous. The energy discharges can overload Valkyrie technology." Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cooling air. Her personal shield generator and other equipment would be useless during an energy storm. Ben began walking toward a nearby cliff face. "There should be caves in those rocks. Natural stone will protect us better than anything else." Zara followed him, struggling to keep up across the uneven ground. Her royal boots had not been designed for hiking across alien terrain. Within minutes, her feet were aching. Ben noticed her difficulty and slowed his pace. "Here," he said, offering her a pair of sturdy boots from his pack. "These should fit better." "How did you know to bring extra boots?" Zara asked as she changed her footwear. "Always be prepared for the unexpected," Ben said with a small smile. "That is one of the first rules of survival." They reached the cliff face just as the first energy storm arrived. Green lightning crackled across the sky, and the air itself seemed to hum with power. Ben found a deep cave that extended far back into the rock. They hurried inside just as sheets of energy rain began to fall. The cave was dark and cold, but it was dry and safe from the storm. Ben unpacked more supplies from his bag, including a small camping light that cast a warm glow on the stone walls. "How long do these storms last?" Zara asked, sitting on a flat rock and rubbing her sore feet. "According to the planetary data, anywhere from 6 hours to 3 days, Ben replied. He was setting up what looked like a simple camp, arranging supplies and checking their water reserves. Zara watched him work with growing amazement. Ben moved with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. He seemed to know exactly what needed to be done and how to do it efficiently. "You have done this before," she observed. "Survival training is standard for all human space travelers," Ben explained. "We cannot rely on our technology to save us in every situation." "But you seem to know more than basic survival," Zara said. "You move like someone with years of experience." Ben paused in his work and looked at her carefully. "I have spent time in difficult places, Princess. Life teaches many lessons to those who pay attention." There was something in his voice that made Zara study his face more closely. In the warm light of the camping lamp, Ben's features looked different than they had at Nexus Prime. There was a gentleness in his expression that reminded her of something, though she still could not place what. "You are injured," Ben said suddenly, pointing to a cut on Zara's arm that she had not noticed. "It is nothing," Zara said, but Ben was already moving toward her with a small medical kit. "Let me clean that for you," he said gently. Infections can be dangerous on alien worlds. As Ben began treating her wound, Zara felt that strange sense of familiarity again. His touch was gentle but sure, and he seemed to know exactly how to care for Valkyrie physiology. Most humans would not know the proper pressure points to avoid when treating her species. "How do you know Valkyrie anatomy?" she asked. Ben's hands paused for just a moment before continuing their work. "I studied many species during my diplomatic training," he said quietly. But Zara sensed there was more to it than that. Ben's knowledge seemed too detailed, too personal for simple academic study. As Ben finished bandaging her arm, he began humming softly under his breath. The melody was low and soothing, and it made Zara feel strangely peaceful despite their dangerous situation. Then Zara realized what Ben was humming, and her blood went cold. It was an ancient Valkyrie lullaby, one that only parents sang to their children. The words came back to her memory as if from a dream. "Sleep now, little star, let your light grow strong. Tomorrow brings new wonders, but tonight you belong. Safe in loving arms where no harm can come. Dream of distant worlds until the day is done." No human should know that song. It was not recorded in any database or cultural exchange program. The only way Ben could know it was if he had learned it from someone very close to him, someone who had sung it many times before. "Where did you learn that song?" Zara whispered. Ben stopped humming and looked at her with those calm green eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. The only sound in the cave was the crackling of energy storms outside. "I learned it from someone very precious to me," Ben said finally. "Someone I cared for more than my own life." "Who?" Zara asked, though part of her already knew the answer would change everything. Ben reached into his pack and pulled out a small object. It was a child's toy, made of the same blue crystal as Zara's skin. The little figurine was carved in the shape of a Valkyrie princess, complete with a tiny silver crown. Zara stared at the toy in shock. She knew that figurine. She had seen it before, long ago, in dreams that felt more like memories. "I made this for a little girl," Ben said softly, holding the crystal figure with infinite care. "The most wonderful little girl in the galaxy. I sang her that lullaby every night before she went to sleep." Zara felt tears forming in her golden eyes as buried memories began to surface. She remembered a tall, kind man who had cared for her when she was very small. A man who had protected her from nightmares and taught her to be brave. A man with green eyes and a gentle voice who had loved her like his own daughter. Papa Ben, she whispered, using a name she had not spoken in over 14 years. Ben's composure finally broke. Tears streamed down his face as he opened his arms to her. "Hello, little star," he said. "I have missed you so very much." Zara threw herself into Ben's arms, 17 years of buried emotions flooding back all at once. She remembered now, remembered everything. The tall human who had found her floating alone in a broken escape pod. The man who had fed her warm milk and sung her to sleep when the nightmares came. The father who had taught her to be brave when the world seemed too big and frightening. "I thought I had dreamed you," Zara sobbed against Ben's shoulder. "Mother said you were just a childhood fantasy, that my memories were confused because of the trauma." Ben held her tightly, his own tears falling freely. "You were never a dream, little star. You were the most real thing in my life for 5 wonderful years." The energy storm raged outside their cave, green lightning painting the stone walls in shifting patterns of light. But inside the small shelter, a much more important storm was finally calming after years of separation. "Tell me what happened," Zara whispered. "Tell me everything. I can only remember pieces." Ben pulled back slightly so he could look at her face. Even after all these years, he could still see the little girl he had raised in her golden eyes. "It was 18 years ago," Ben began, his voice soft with memory. "I was serving as a junior ambassador on the exploration ship New Horizon. We were mapping trade routes through the Spiral Nebula when we picked up a distress signal from a Valkyrie transport vessel." Zara listened with complete attention. These were the missing pieces of her life, the answers to questions that had haunted her dreams. "When we reached the transport, it was already too late," Ben continued. "Pirates had attacked the ship and destroyed most of it. We found only one survivor in the wreckage. A tiny Valkyrie baby, alone in a damaged escape pod." "Me," Zara said quietly. "You," Ben confirmed with a sad smile. "You were so small, barely a year old. The ship's computers identified you as Princess Zara, daughter of Queen Lystra. But the royal fleet was weeks away, and you needed immediate care." Ben's expression grew tender as the memories flowed back. "The captain assigned me to look after you until we could return you to your people. I had no experience with children, especially alien children. But you were so tiny and helpless. I could not bear the thought of you being afraid or alone." Zara remembered fragments of those early days. Being carried in strong arms. The sound of Ben's voice reading to her from human storybooks. The feeling of complete safety that had surrounded her whenever he was near. "You were the most curious child I had ever seen," Ben laughed softly. "You wanted to touch everything, explore every corner of the ship. And you were so smart. You learned to speak both Valkyrie and human languages at the same time." "You taught me both languages?" Zara asked. "I had to learn Valkyrie to communicate with you properly," Ben explained. "I spent months studying your people's culture, your customs, your lullabies. I wanted you to remember who you were and where you came from." This explained so much. Ben's knowledge of Valkyrie pressure points, his understanding of their fighting techniques, his ability to sing ancient songs. He had learned it all out of love for her. "But why do I not remember more?" Zara asked. "Why did everything feel like a dream?" Ben's expression grew sad. "When your mother's fleet finally found us, you had been with me for 5 years. You called me Papa Ben and cried whenever anyone tried to take you away from me. You did not understand why you had to leave." Zara felt fresh tears starting. She could almost remember that terrible day, the confusion and fear of being separated from the only father she had known. "Queen Lystra was grateful that I had cared for you," Ben continued. "But she was also concerned. You had become too attached to human ways, human culture. The court physicians worried that you might never fully accept your role as a Valkyrie princess if you kept those memories. So they took them away," Zara said, understanding at last. "Not completely," Ben said gently. They suppressed them, buried them deep so they would not interfere with your royal training. But they left just enough so that you would retain the lessons I had taught you. Your courage, your curiosity, your sense of justice. Those came from your years with me. The irony was overwhelming. Everything Zara had mocked about humans, their primitive fighting techniques and simple ways, had actually shaped her into the person she was. Ben's human values of protection, adaptation, and never giving up had become part of her own character. I have been such a fool, Zara said, shame flooding through her. I insulted your people and your ways, never knowing they were my ways too. You were not a fool, Ben said firmly. You were doing what you thought was right for your people. I never blamed you for that. A new sound interrupted their conversation. Over the crackling of the energy storm, they could hear the distant hum of approaching spacecraft. Multiple ships, moving fast and heading directly toward their location. Ben immediately went on alert, grabbing his pack and checking his weapons. The Brotherhood must have found us. But Zara was listening more carefully to the engine signatures. After a moment, her face lit up with hope and relief. No, she said. Those are Royal Valkyrie ships. My mother has found us. The energy storm was beginning to weaken, and through the cave opening they could see bright lights descending from the clouds. 3 magnificent vessels settled onto the rocky ground outside their shelter. The largest ship bore the royal seal of Queen Lystra herself. Ben and Zara emerged from their cave as landing ramps extended from the royal flagship. Valkyrie guards in crystal armor marched down the ramps, followed by officers and medical personnel. Finally, Queen Lystra herself appeared, her tall figure unmistakable even at a distance. The queen moved faster than Zara had ever seen her move before. Royal dignity was forgotten as Lystra ran across the rocky ground toward her daughter. But when she saw Ben standing beside Zara, the queen stopped dead in her tracks. For a long moment, the 3 of them simply stared at each other. Then Queen Lystra began to cry. The most powerful ruler in the galaxy, the woman who commanded vast fleets and ruled countless worlds, broke down in tears at the sight of her daughter safe beside the human who had raised her. My baby, Lystra whispered, opening her arms wide. Zara ran to her mother, but she kept one hand extended toward Ben, pulling him into their embrace. For the first time in 17 years, her family was complete. Majesty, Ben said formally, trying to step back and bow. None of that, Queen Lystra said firmly, reaching out to grab his hand. You saved my daughter twice. Once when she was a baby, and again today. How can I ever repay such a debt? There is no debt, Ben said quietly. Caring for Zara was the greatest honor of my life. Queen Lystra looked between her daughter and the human who had shaped so much of who Zara had become. I owe you an explanation, both of you. As they boarded the royal flagship, Lystra began to tell the full story. The attack on the transport ship had been planned by enemies of the crown who wanted to eliminate the royal bloodline. Baby Zara was supposed to have died with her transport escort. When we learned you were alive and safe with Ben, I was overjoyed, the queen explained. But I was also terrified. The same enemies who had tried to kill you once might try again. I thought it would be safer if the galaxy believed Princess Zara had died in that attack. So you let me stay with Ben, Zara said, understanding. For 5 years, yes. It was agony being separated from you, but I knew you were safe and loved. Ben sent me regular reports and pictures. I watched you grow up through his eyes. This revelation stunned Zara. Her mother had known about Ben all along. She had deliberately allowed her daughter to be raised by a human because she trusted him completely. But when the political situation stabilized, I had to bring you home, Lystra continued. You were old enough to begin your royal training, and the court needed to see that the princess lived. However, the physicians were concerned about your attachment to human culture. So you suppressed my memories, Zara said. Not all of them, Lystra said gently. We left the important parts. Your sense of honor came from Ben's teachings about protecting others. Your strategic thinking came from the games he played with you. Your courage came from his bedtime stories about heroes who never gave up. Zara looked at Ben with new understanding. You did not just teach me to fight. You taught me how to think like a warrior. I taught you to think like a human, Ben corrected. We do not give up when things become difficult. We adapt to any situation. We protect the people we love, no matter the cost. And that is what made you such a remarkable princess, Queen Lystra added. Your combination of Valkyrie abilities and human determination has always set you apart from other royals. The royal ship was now in hyperspace, heading back toward Valkyrie territory. The three of them sat in the Queen's private chambers, finally able to speak freely after so many years of separation. I want to make things right, Zara said suddenly. I insulted humans at the summit without understanding that I was insulting my own father and my own upbringing. What do you propose? Her mother asked. Zara turned to Ben with a determined expression. I want you to come to the homeworld. I want you to train our royal guard in human combat techniques and strategic thinking. Our military has become too dependent on technology and psychic powers. We need to learn the adaptability and resourcefulness that you taught me. Ben looked surprised. Princess, I am honored by the offer, but I am just one human. What could I teach the finest warriors in the galaxy? Everything, Zara said firmly. You defeated me using nothing but human techniques and the tactical thinking you learned while raising a stubborn Valkyrie child. Our guards are brave and skilled, but they have never learned to think the way humans do. Queen Lystra smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. It is an excellent idea. Ben, would you accept the position of strategic combat advisor to the Royal Guard? Ben was quiet for a long moment, considering the offer. Finally, he nodded slowly. If it would help keep Zara and the realm safe, then yes. I accept. Zara felt a burst of joy unlike anything she had experienced since childhood. Her father would be staying with them. She would finally have the chance to learn all the lessons that had been taken from her memory. There is one condition, Ben said seriously. I will teach human methods, but they must be adapted to work alongside Valkyrie abilities, not replace them. The goal is to make your people stronger, not to make them more human. Agreed, Queen Lystra said immediately. As their ship continued toward the Valkyrie homeworld, Zara sat beside Ben and listened to him tell stories of their 5 years together. Each tale brought back more buried memories, filling in the gaps in her childhood that had haunted her for so long. She learned about the time she had accidentally activated a ship's emergency beacon while playing with what she thought was a toy. She heard about her first steps, taken while chasing a maintenance robot through the ship's corridors. Ben told her about the day she had spoken her first words in perfect human English, asking for more of the sweet cakes he made for her birthday. You were fearless even then, Ben laughed. You would climb anywhere, explore everything. I spent most of my time making sure you did not accidentally launch yourself into space. Some things never change, Queen Lystra said with amusement. She still climbs things she should not climb. As the hours passed, Zara felt herself becoming whole again. The missing pieces of her identity were falling back into place. She was Princess Zara of the Valkyrie Empire, daughter of Queen Lystra. But she was also the little girl who had been loved and protected by a human warrior named Ben. Both parts of her heritage made her who she was. Her Valkyrie blood gave her psychic abilities and advanced technology. Her human upbringing gave her the determination to use those gifts wisely and the courage to protect others no matter the cost. When they finally reached the Valkyrie homeworld, Zara stood at the viewport watching the crystal cities of her people shine in the light of their golden sun. She was home at last, truly home, with both her mother and her father beside her. Papa Ben, she said, using the old name that felt so right on her tongue. Yes, little star. Thank you for never giving up on me. Ben put his arm around her shoulders, just as he had when she was small. Thank you for finding your way back to me. Together, they prepared to face whatever challenges the future might bring. The Valkyrie Empire would be stronger now, combining the best of both their peoples. And Zara would finally be the princess she was always meant to be, shaped by love from two worlds and ready to protect them both.